In this lecture, we are going to look at the text input element of Qt Quick. To show off its powers, we are going to build the contact panel like this, where the user is going to be allowed to type in the first name and last name. Let's go to Qt Creator and do this. Here we are in Qt Creator. We are going to create our project. It is a Qt Quick application. We are going to name it Text Input Demo. Save it in the usual location. We want to use this as the default location because this is a new chapter. Hit next, choose our kit, choose desktop, and we have our project here. The title is going to say text input. We are going to specify our role. Give it an XY location. Specify the spacing of 10. You probably remember the row component from previous lectures. It is used to lay out things from left to right. Inside, we are going to put a rectangle. This is for the first name. Inside, we are going to put in a text element for the text. This is going to work like a label. And it should be centered in the parent. Now we want to specify the width and height of this rectangle in relation to the size of the text that is in here. The way we do that, you probably know all this from the previous lectures. The width equals first name label ID, implicit width. We add a margin of 20. Now let's type width well. Height is going to be the same. Let's run this to see what it looks like. We have a label saying first name. This looks good. We want to add a text input element that is inside the rectangle as well, so that things look a little bit consistent. So we are going to add the rectangle again. Inside, we are going to put a text input element. The ID is going to be first name. Text is going to be type in your first name. Why not? And it is going to be centered in the parent as well. So we're going to say anchors center in parent. And it should have the focus. So we should set focus to true. Okay, if you look at text input, let's look at it in the documentation. We select it, hit F1. It is going to open in help to the right here. Click on this button on top, open in help mode to have it shown in full screen. Let's look at all the members, including inherited members. And if we look down, we're going to find a property called focus. And this property holds whether the item has focus within the enclosing focus scope. Okay, it basically says if this item has focus. We are not going to go into focus scope by now. We are going to look at that later in the chapter. But we have our text input now, and we can run to see it in action. You see that they are wrapping. Why is that? This is the problem that I described previously in custom components. When you want your elements to be shown very well without problems in components like row and column, you really should be careful about giving them widths and height that are defined. And you see that our rectangle here doesn't have a specified width and height. This is our problem. So we should say width, implicit width, and add our margin. You can add whatever you want. And do the same thing for height. First name, text ID, implicit height. Now, if we run, we shouldn't see this problem. I wanted you to see this. Okay, type in your first name. We can actually delete the thing and type in Daniel, or you can type in your first name. Now that we have this, we should add the same thing for the last name. So I actually am going to copy this row, put it down so that I don't confuse things. I am going to put it at a y coordinate of, let's say 60. I'm going to see how this looks and change it accordingly. I'm going to say last name here, last name. And this should be last name too. So we should be very careful about this. Last name. And I think this one should say last name as well. Okay, let's run the application. What is that? There is something we didn't change. This should say last name. Type in your last name here. Run the application, and you see first name, last name. You can click around to do things. My first name is Daniel. And this is how you use a text input. You use it to type in some text and you can capture it. So the way you capture the text is through the on text edit. There's a signal for that. So we go in the first name, text input, and say on editing finished. This is the signal. Sorry for that. And we can console log to capture the changed text, and it is going to be saved in this text property here. So this signal is fired whenever this text input loses focus. Let's run the application and try this out. Okay, first name, put in Daniel, and you can see that if I click on the last name here, they say the first name changed to Daniel. We want to do the same for the last name, so we are going to come back to the code here, and I want you to notice one thing. When this text input loses focus, even if we click on the outside here, you see that we get the message first name changed to whatever is in there. So you should know this, that whenever you lose focus, no matter how, you're going to see this message here. So we want to go to the first name, copy this signal. We don't want to type this again. Come to the second text input for the last name and put in the signal like this and say last name changed to the new last name. If we run now, erase this, type Daniel. Click on the second field, you're going to see first name changed to Daniel. And if we do the same thing by changing the last name and click on the first name, you're going to see last name changed to Gakwai. We are able to transfer focus by clicking on these things. And you see that the focus is transferred automatically. You don't have to do anything. You just click and focus is transferred to the other element where you click. And when the element loses focus, you see that the on editing finished signal is fired and we see our message in here. This is really how you work with the text input. On editing finished is one of its signals, but if you want to see more on its signals, you can click on F1 while having text input here selected. See the help here, click on the top to make it full. And if you go down, you're probably going to see more signals. Text edited, accepted, and you can click on any of these to have more information on how you can use this. This covers all we set out to do in this lecture. I hope you have more information on how you can use the text input element at your advantage. In the next lecture, we're going to look at the text edit element and how you can use it. I'll see you in the next lecture.